Hi, this is Mr. O'Byrne, and today we're going to talk about getting into some trouble with negative integers. Alright? So, we have basic operations, but sometimes the basic seems really difficult once we get to the negative side of things or when we're dealing with negative numbers. We're going to work today with just addition and subtraction. Alright? So, what we have up here is 2 minus 4. I'm pretty sure a lot of you can do 4 minus 2, which equals 2, but 2 minus 4 is a different concept. Now, why is this a different concept? It's because we're subtracting something that's larger than from something that's smaller. Okay? What we have here is 2 minus 4. I want you real quick to give it a guess real quick what 2 minus 4 is. Alright, before I unveil what 2 minus 4 is, I'm going to go over to my document camera that's right next to me. I'm going to draw real quick where we should start at 2 and go over 4 spaces to the left side. So we're going to go here. We're going to start our line at 2 right here. And we're going to hop over 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. And we end up at negative 2. So let's see if negative 2 is what it is. Boom, there it is, negative 2. Sweet. Now, okay, we've seen that when we go 2 minus 4, which we're taught is left on the number line, we get to negative 2. So we dealt with a negative number. We subtracted a larger number from a smaller number, and we got a negative number as our result. Now let's try to do something that's a little bit more tricky. We've got 3 plus negative 5. So we're adding on negative 5. Quickly give it a quick shot. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. You may have run into a problem here. Because if we look at our original distinction, plus means we go this way on the number line or right. But the problem is we have that negative in front of that 5. That's going to change things when we're dealing with negative numbers. So we start at 3, and it tells us that we're going to go negative 5. So what we have to do is actually go left. That negative changes where we go on our number line. So we start at 3, and we go negative 5 over. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that on the document line. Maybe you'll guess where it is at. So we start at 3 right here, and we're going to go over negative 5 spaces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we end up at negative 2 again. So we started at 3, and we went over negative 5 spaces. Even though this originally said back in our other videos, that plus means go right on the number line. So our initial thoughts would maybe be that we'd go this way. But unfortunately, this negative right here makes that not right. If it's a negative number, we go to the left, especially when we're adding. So let's unveil it. What do you think it is? Boom, negative 2 again. Let's move on to our next problem. This is probably the hardest thing to understand, and when we're dealing with negative basic operations, is when we subtract a negative number. It's really counterintuitive, and I've watched a lot of videos on how to make this seem intuitive and easy and real-world examples. I've seen a lot of examples using money. I'll briefly say it real quick, but maybe it won't make sense. And then I'll get into the basic algorithm, or basically what you do to teach kids in order to do it. Students, of course. Let's say I have $6. But what happened is I owed the bank $2. So it was 6 minus 2. I would have $4 after that. But I checked my account book, and I paid the bank $2, so I did 6 minus 2. But there was something wrong. That wasn't supposed to happen. So what do? I'm going to take back the $2 that I gave away. Sounds weird, So we do 6 minus negative 2. And you'll figure out what happens with that. Well, then our net worth is actually going to go up. Sounds weird. Now let's go to the basic algorithm. We start at 6 all the way over here. And initially we're going to want to go, because subtraction means we go left on the number line, we're going to want to go 1, 2. But the problem is, again, is this negative number is in front of this operation. So what we got to do is we got to flip it around. 6, instead of going 2 to the left, we go 2 to the right. And end up at, where do you think we end up at? We end up at 8. Let me go ahead and represent this on the number line. Hopefully it's not jiggling anymore. But Landon, what do you think's going on, man? Help me out here. All right, bud. What we're going to do here is we're going to start at 6, right here. We're going to start at 6. And initially, we're going to think we're going left because it's a subtraction symbol. So we think we're going to be going this way because it's a subtraction symbol right here. But unfortunately, that's not right. Because this guy right here, this negative symbol, changes it from left to go to the right. This negative symbol screws things up. So we need to actually go right. This negative is making our lives harder. So we have to actually go 2 to the right. So we go 1, 2 out here to where 8 should be. This would be 7, this would be 8. So we should go this. Instead of going left, if it was just 6 minus 2, we go 2 spots left and be at 4. But since this negative is here, it screws us up. And we have to go 2 places to the right. So we get 8. Now let me try to explain this just using the algorithm. If we have 6 minus a negative 2, what we can think of in our brain, in our brain and mind, or whatever you want to call it, we can combine these two negatives right here, and we can make it a positive. So essentially, all we're doing is we're replacing these two negatives, and we're making it a positive. So now it's 6 plus 2, and that equals 8. Say it one more time. We'll try to color code this. If it was 6 minus negative 2, what we do, you just don't even want to think about, usually we go left and the negative sign flips it to go the other way if you don't like that. What we do is we just combine these two negative symbols into becoming a positive. So this combines into this and this goes into this. And we really just get 6 plus 2. If you have a negative number being subtracted, you flip the sign and it becomes a positive. And that equals 8. That's how we do that. This last step, let's get even more difficult when we go negative 4, already a scary number, and we subtract negative 2, another scary number, and subtracting is already scarier than adding, right? Okay, so as we can see here, we have a lot of negative symbols over here. What are we going to do? We're going to go ahead and try to change it so this is easier in the first step. We learned last step that initially our number line would tell us to start at 4 and to go left because of that subtraction sign. But it says go left to negative 2, which doesn't make sense because you can't go left negative 2. You can't go in the negative direction left. So what we have to do is we have to change this to a positive. So we start at negative 4 and we're going to go over what? Positive 2 steps. So what we do over here is we start at negative 4 right here and we go over 2 steps. 1, 2 to get at negative 2. We can also think about it algorithm, like I call it algorithm because it's basically not that intuitive, you just follow steps. What you do is you take these two negative symbols since they're right next to each other and you substitute a positive in place of these. So it really becomes negative 4 plus 2. So we start at negative 4 and we add 2 to the right. And we should be at negative 2. So what are we at? Negative 2. We're right. This may seem difficult, and it does get counterintuitive, especially when we get into subtracting negatives. But if you work hard on it, I think you'll be doing pretty well, especially when you remember this rule. Remember that subtracting a negative, you really just replace those two negative symbols with a positive. So subtracting a negative is the same thing as adding that number. So originally you're subtracting -2 in this one. Originally you're subtracting -2. What you do is you actually add 2. You subtract the negative, you flip it with subtracting negative, you make it a plus symbol instead of the two negative symbols. Okay? That's the big trick we learned today. Is when you subtract a negative number, you make it a positive instead of making it a negative. Counterintuitive. We'll try. Landon, how'd you like that? Go on, dude.
Oh, Mr. Byrne. I basically learned that cool trick where you take a negative number when a negative number is being subtracted, you take the two negative symbols and they cross and you make it a positive. So like 6 minus -2 is really 6 minus -2 is really 6 plus 2. And it'd be 8 instead of like -4 or something. Yeah, that cool trick. Minus a negative number is really positive. The two negatives you just put it as a positive. Thank you.